What's the haps? I'm Meroka, and today I want to talk about how I think Spiral Knights could be improved. So Spiral Knights is a broken game. I think most veterans at this stage know this. Steam charts shows a fairly steady decline in player numbers since their records began. This, in and of itself, is not unusual for any game, MMO or otherwise, but it is important for the developers of an MMO to try and fight this trend as hard as possible. In an MMO, other players, whether free-to-players or premium content players, are the reason other players will continue to play and spend money. Players come back to spend time with guildmates or to make friends in group content. If they log in to find the guild hall empty or have difficulty finding groups for the content they want, they're likely to stop playing and the downward trend continues. This obviously has a direct impact on the bottom line too. Nobody wants to buy that fancy new expensive hat with nobody to show it off to. If players leave, revenues decline, and the obvious conclusion at the end of this is that a once beloved game closes its doors. I don't want to see that happen, and I'm quite certain a lot of others don't either. I do think there are a number of changes that you could make to Spiral Knights that would resolve a lot of the current issues with the game. Many of them wouldn't even be hard to implement. I'll be looking at more modern free-to-play titles that I believe work well and taking cues from their design models. First is daily rewards. This is a standard feature in all modern free-to-play titles, and it gives the player a reason to return to the game every single day. We have a daily system in Spiral Knights already, and it's honestly pretty bad. There's one daily mission and one daily danger mission. There are 6 of each in a rotating pattern, and what do we get for our troubles? Prestige. A number attached to our character which goes up, and at certain milestones we get a little icon by our name. There are people out there for whom the reward is evidently enough, but for most people all the system really provides is a slow and honestly pretty grindy way of getting a little horse icon by their name, and it's not really worth it. Most people would like some kind of reward for their time commitment each day, and most of the competitors out there provide it. Skyforge offers up a bunch of character upgrade tokens every day. Final Fantasy Record Keeper gives people a token amount of premium currency, which I do think is one of the more generous ones. Even Fishing Planet offers up a tiny amount of premium currency occasionally. I feel like Sky Saga has one of the best implementations I've seen recently though. The game sends a letter every day with a few low-level items attached and a keystone granting access to a random level. Upon completion of the level, a reward of useful items to the player are given. Crafting materials, currency, and recipes among others. More importantly, for every consecutive day the player logs in and completes the daily level, up to, I think, about 7 days, the rewards increase in rarity and value, which is a way more exciting prospect than my number went up a little bit. Honestly, I'd love to see that concept taken to an extreme. What reward do you give a player who's dutifully completed their task for 50 days straight? 100 days? 365. For 365, here's the rarest and shiniest of hats. The hat of undeniable wealth and respect, if you will. That would see a few people logging in, I guarantee you. Second is new content. I've been saying this forever now and I'll keep saying it till I'm blue in the face. In an MMO, content is king. Give people something, anything, to return to. I've already done everything, or very nearly, and so have thousands of other people. What incentive do I have to log back into Spiral Knights today? Well, I guess I could go make that number go up again, but that's it. Every time World of Warcraft's numbers dwindle, bam! New expansion and everyone resubscribes. Just as everyone's gotten bored of Warlords of Draenor, they announced Legion. Am I expecting Spiral Knights the Burning Crusade? Well, no. Obviously an expansion like that is a massive undertaking by a team of hundreds, and a budget that would make your head spin. But it works on a smaller scale too. To return to Final Fantasy Record Keeper, DNA add a new chunk of content to the game something like every week. It's never new content, instead it's a series of missions that borrow most of their content from the existing core missions of the game, but repackaged as a new event and rebalanced to provide new challenges with appropriate rewards. The work to create this content is relatively low since all the artwork and mechanics exist already, but it gives players who might otherwise tire of the game a reason to come back and see the content on a frequent basis. Third, remove the content gates. It's literally stopping people from playing the game. Seriously, one of the questions I get most frequently is how do I get enough orbs or crowns or energy or fire crystals to be allowed to progress in the game? I quit playing my alt because that scenario frustrated me, and I've got to wonder how many other players quit playing long before making it to Vanguard for the same reasons. I'd comfortably wager that that single feature is responsible for a large amount of loss of player numbers. I probably wouldn't be playing today if I hadn't begun playing under the old system, which was still technically gated, but felt far more forgiving. Players were given the opportunity to see what they were capable of and fail at their own pace rather than being told, no, this is not for you. Indeed, the emergency revive system is far more forgiving than energy revives, though arguably less so than player revives, but it would allow players an even greater degree of experimentation, if the system allowed it. Fourth, give people a reason to gamble. prize boxes. I think most people will be with me in saying that the majority of stuff that you get from one is garbage no one wants, and you can't even sell in-game for much money. It's gambling. People want the big ticket item, the jackpot. Not that piece of armor which already exists in 30 other colors and is now tinted a slightly different shade of green. It's why I'll never drop $5 on one, because it's statistically super unlikely I'd get anything worthwhile. The easiest way to encourage a purchase is to offer up something worthwhile in them. Stick a few orbs and fire crystals in them as a consolation prize. It would take the sting out of the tail of getting that new avocado coloured spiral scale mail, which looks really similar to the olive coloured one from a month ago and only sells for 10,000 crowns on the auction house. The occasional box has variant tickets, but these seem to act more as a replacement for the avocado armor rather than an addition to it. At launch, Spiral Knights was definitely an innovative product. Free-to-play was still new to Western markets. It was executed well at a time when most competitors were pay-to-win games brought over from Eastern markets. But that was 4 years ago, and times change. They change surprisingly quickly in the tech industry, and products need to keep up with competitors' innovations or risk being left behind. This is, sadly, what Spiral Knights has failed to do. The game currently has a heavy emphasis on cosmetic products as a revenue stream, and there's nothing inherently wrong with that. I personally take issue with the gambling mechanics, but they're obviously successful and indeed popular in certain markets. Cosmetics clearly work well for Team Fortress 2 and others, but their success is tied to the popularity of the game. If you have more players, it follows that more players will buy hats. And Spiral Knights is doing a lot wrong at present to attract new players, as well as retaining any new players that do come along, as well as older veterans of the game who are actually the more likely people to buy the hats, having invested more time and energy into playing that far. I'd like to hope this video could inspire 3 Rings to take a few cues from the current free-to-play market that has left them behind, and if you'd like to share this video with them, maybe together we could be the change we all want to see. Thank you for taking the time to listen, and even more so if you actually happen to be a 3 Rings employee. None of us want to see this game closed, but you need to do something to address the issue at hand, and I think some of what I've suggested could make a difference. I've been Meroka, and I'll see you next time.